Welcome to the Performance Matters Podcast with your hosts, Matrixx Ferreira and Myles Methner, brought to you by Iron Performance Center.
All right, everyone, we are back with the Performance Matters Podcast. Of course, Matrixx and Myles, we're back here again. It's December. It's the holiday time. First, big shout out to our sponsor, Peep Method Photography, the premier sportsographer in the Niagara region. He can be contacted, www.peepmethodphotography.com, or via email, peepmethodphotography@gmail.com. Support local, awesome dude. So, holiday season, a couple reminders. Dead December is in full swing right now. Again, the program is free. You can check our Instagram. The code is there. Just download the Team Builder app, put the code and the password in, and you'll have access to the 3-day program. It's total body, obviously the focus being on deadlifts, but again, if you guys are looking for something to do or just need something to kind of stay motivated in the gym, by all means, the program's there, have access to it. We have a group chat, leaderboard, all that kind of stuff. Keeps it accountable, keeps it fun, and just get some heavy hoists in over the holiday season, right? It's always a good time. At the PR party at IBC's on December 30th, 5 o'clock, about an hour long to show up, lift something heavy, have a good time, and then hopefully end the new year off on a good spot, right? Next thing, Christmas break is coming up. So for all of our returning college or university athletes, we're excited to welcome you all home. Again, you guys should have got the emails for Christmas break. Again, depending on how long you're home for, whenever you arrive and whenever you depart, going back to camp, just let us know. There are multiple options for you guys. It's always a great time to have our kids back home for the holiday season. Not only is it a great time for us to keep performance going in the right direction, gives them something productive to do over the holiday break, keep them focused, less stress of school, less stress of exams, right? So it's kind of like that mini summer hurrah almost, if you will, before we kind of get ready to rock and reload for what we hope to be a very dominating 2026. So plus, I love catching up with all our kids and seeing how school's going, how their lives are going. It's always a great time. Like that 2-week, 3-week spur. Once our exams are done, it's always been a blast. So on that note, I think it's fair to ask the question, like, what is the point of, like, what is the effect of like a 2-week training period or like a 3-week training period over the holiday break?
So the first thing is, people have to realize who are listening, we get a wide variety of different athletes coming home for Christmas who are in different situations. So like some of them are gearing up to actually go play their competitive season right after the winter. Some of them are like, baseball, for example, is kind of gearing up to go play. Somebody like volleyball or basketball is in the middle of their season, and somebody like football is setting up for their off season, right? So first thing first is that we have to obviously figure out what that athlete, what period they're in. Are they in a transition period like football? Are they in the middle of are they in the thick of it, so to speak, like maybe volleyball or basketball? Or is it more like baseball, who's gearing up, trying to get ready to go soon, right? Spring's coming fast. So that's kind of where it starts. Okay, where are you at? If you're coming off your season, like any injuries, anything that, I'm asking all the guys, like, how'd your exit interview go, right? What does coach want to see from you? What do they want to keep seeing? What do they want to see you change or improve on? And that's kind of where a lot of that stuff is going to be factored in versus some of these other athletes I just mentioned. And then from there, like, it's kind of funny, you already kind of alluded to it, but I look at the student-athlete lifestyle, like, of all the things you have to juggle, it's like school, for a lot of the athletes, maybe a part-time job, and then, of course, your training. So it's kind of weird. There's like a mentality of like Christmas break. I like that we didn't call it this year the Christmas break. We call it like the reload. Yeah, because no matter what situation you're in from those factors I just went over, like it's a good opportunity to reload in one way or another. Reload for the off season that's about to start or for the season that's about to start or continue. And the way I look at it is like you're just taking one of those things off your plate. You have no more school. So instead of sitting around for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever you have and saying, let me just chill out, like why don't you train the same intensity, if not more, because you have a unique opportunity to do so. Like I found for me, a couple times in my life, I've done like 2 times a day lifting programs, right? 2 times a day, not 2 times a week, twice a day. And it was always over Christmas break because I had that mentality. I'm like, A, obviously I love training, but B, I'm like, I have extra time now and I have way less stress. So why don't I get it in right now? And I always felt like that set me up for, you go back in January and some guys haven't done anything over the break. They're all like really dragging their ass. And I'm like, I feel like these workouts are easy relatively because I've been kind of getting after it, right? So
yeah, it's really a micro-dose summer off season for if you're a winter sport, like let's say you're volleyball or basketball, like you're pretty much gearing up for like a February, March kind of peak, right? So if you're over the summer break, it's kind of like that. It's like a really intense 2 to 3 week span micro-dose summer session, right? Like I'm glad we call it the reload because that's exactly what it is, right? In the summer, you don't have school, you don't have exams, you don't have as many practices going on, so the stress from those other factors or variables have just declined, which allows us more in the preparation realm. Like, okay, now we get to actually put more hay in the barn, so to speak. Christmas time is kind of like that in just like a microdose scale. It's like, okay, we have 2 weeks, right? We're less stressed, like 2 to 3 weeks approximately. We have less stress. Exams are done. School is done, right? I get to go home for a little bit, hang with my family, all that kind of stuff. And ironically, too, like a lot of sports, like if you're in the high school realm, right, they're still running camps over the holiday break. Like a lot of these athletes really aren't stopping. They kind of just now have one less thing to worry about, aka school, and then they just redirect now their efforts into like a little more of their efforts and their energy into honing their skill, their craft, or their physicality, right? So.
And really, I mentioned part-time work, but a lot of them aren't even going to work over the break. So really, it's 2 less factors. It's actually no school and probably no work.
You literally get to sleep in, train, and then
just be a pro athlete, really.
Sleep. You literally get like that 2-3 week break to just, take a couple of things off your plate and then really emphasize your energy.
Sleep in, stress less, eat more calories than normal. They may not be good calories, but at least you can put them to work, right? Like,
yeah, we're being productive, and I think the whole point of the reload is it's a great kind of like touch point of like, okay, we're give or take, we're more than like halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Right. Like for a lot of our winter sport athletes that are coming up to OUAs, CIs, or U Sports, that's coming up in February and March. So it's like, okay, we're really like 8 weeks or so away, give or take, maybe 10 weeks away from like the show, right? Obviously, have to qualify and all those kind of things. So it's like, where are we at currently?
Yeah.
Right?
You cannot afford to take a week off, never mind 3 weeks off.
Yeah, especially if you're not. There's a lot of things we could always work on. You know what I mean? Athletes always have, like, we can really use like a scalpel to start to be more precise on where we're at with these things. So like that Christmas break period, like 2 to 3 week period, is like, okay, let's get the feedback. Like, what did coach like from you the first half of the season? What's some constructive things he wants you to work on? In terms of the physicality, are you hitting the outputs you need to hit, right? How have you been recovering? Like, is it an output thing or is it an input thing? Output being like you're giving everything you had to express your skill. Input being what I have to bring into my body to allow myself to have higher outputs. So it's like, where are we at in those two sides of the scale, and get some subjective and objective feedback and say, okay, here's where we're at currently, right? Especially if we had them for the summer, we have summer data, and we'll have like our Christmas break data, right? We can say, okay, like here's where your jumps and your outputs, peak power and your speeds were all at, about when you left. And here's where they are about halfway through the season. Now, we're going to see, typically we might see like a little bit of a decline, sometimes stagnation, which is fine, because usually when you kind of build everything up for the summer, and then if you're able to hold on to that, or at least not drop substantially by halfway through, it's like that's probably a good sign. Because again, you're balancing a lot more stress once the season's, right? You got school, you have exams, you have social life, you're away from home. There's a lot of things you're balancing. So those things do take a toll. So actually to see like a pretty like steady numbers across the board and just like good energy levels, like, okay, that means like everything you built up is kind of holding on to par, which is not a bad thing per se, right? Of course, we like to see improvements all the time, but it's never going to be linear. So we have to kind of take those wins as they come. Now, if we're seeing a steady decline, which we've done studies with our college teams in the past, right? We've shown that athletes that train, more frequently across the week in season, they actually had better output results, right? And I'm assuming they're probably balancing the input with that as well. So it's not to say it's not possible. Like I think we made an Instagram post kind of summarizing the Goldilocks effect, right? It's literally like that, like 2 to 3 times a week in season is actually shown to have really good effects on their performance. And again, the ones that didn't, they saw a pretty good decline. And that's just one small like in-house study we kind of did. But those numbers didn't lie. It's okay, well, it's possible. Like I think that's the whole point. It's like it is possible. And I would argue too, it's like it wasn't these like run your head through a wall type things. It was pretty like precise, like again, scalpel precision type dose sessions where like we're gonna do these certain things on these certain days, trying to work around the chaos of what the season is. And we're able to get those output results that we were hoping to get. So, okay, great. So that's a good sign. So the Christmas break reload is exactly that. It's like, where are we at? Let's get the feedback from the first half so we can reload, relock in, and get us back on track or stay on track for 2026, right? And a lot of our kids, they've had great reviews from us. Like, yeah, like the things we've done helped them prepare them for their freshman year or for their returning years. And like, it makes it a lot easier. It's an easier assimilation for them to go into that setting from the experience they've had working in the facility with us. So now it's like, great. Now they can ask better questions. Now they actually have a taste of it. Like, okay, great. Like I kind of got my feet wet. I know what to expect now. Okay, here's where coach wants me to be. Here's where I think I can be. Great. Let's reload for these 2-3 weeks, get us on track or stay on track. So when you go back in January for training camp, it's like you never left. Like, okay, I feel refreshed. I got my sleep. I got a little bit of a break so I can kind of, de-escalate a little bit, but I didn't lose anything and maybe on track to continue to rise, right? So I think the reload is exactly that. Like, let's put some ammunition back in our weapons here and get locked in versus sit in our ass for 2-3 weeks and then go back rusty and start to be a little more anxious. I think a lot of guys too, like it's no different than summer. If guys didn't train for 16 weeks or didn't prepare for 16 weeks, like they're going to be a little anxious. Like they get a little nervous. They feel like there's a thing they probably won't even speak about, right? It's an unspoken, no, I'm good. But really deep down, like they're anxious.
I'm not great.
Yeah. deep down, they're anxious. Like it's a normal feeling. Like when you've prepared, it's hard to not have that chip on your shoulder. Like I worked my tail off for a whole summer to get ready for this season, right? And that puts you, if nothing else, in a mental category higher than most, where most guys didn't do anything, and they know that. Deep down, they're the ones that have to answer themselves. They know that. So they have that little anxiety, like where they have to shake the rust off, right? It's got to shake the rust off. It's like, yeah, but...
You never had to get rusty, though.
You didn't have to get rusty. That's my point. Like, you got a whole can of WD-40 in your back pocket, and you just decide not to use it. So all of a sudden, here we are, like a Tin Man, right? So I think that's the other side of it, too. It's like, for 2-3 weeks, like, yes, it's not just do nothing. It's you have less things to worry about, less things that are stressing you out, right? From a systemic point of view. Now we're able to regenerate from that lack of systemic stress from these other avenues, and we can focus on a positive eustress that's actually going to help us keep on track or get better on track for a better outcome, right? To get ready for the things that matter in 2026.
I think a couple of things that popped up in my head was, first of all, it kind of reiterates the importance of getting a lot of these numbers and metrics up so high in the summer.
Huge. Because
you know that they may detrain depending on what the athletes do in season, what the program's looking like, what their in-season training looks like for whatever reason. So building that threshold of that reserve so high will then allow them to, if worst case scenario, they do start to detrain, their detrain state is still better than their opponent's highest readiness type thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I thought of. The second thing to reiterate was when we did that in-house study, like you said, with the Goldilocks effect of kids training once a week getting worse, kids maybe trying to train too much, not ideal either. But those who had the best results training in that Goldilocks range also were not new athletes to the team. They were not rookies or freshmen, whatever you call it.
They had starters,
not only starters, but like third, fourth, or fifth year athletes on the team. So they were not just experiencing what the listener might think of as like newbie gains or whatever you want to call it. Like they were seasoned athletes. I'll say they were trained by us for multiple years in the program and still seeing a lot of their career best metrics by the last year. Like that's probably what I was most proud of. Like anybody can make a rookie better, let's be honest. But seeing those seniors continue to get better and continue to lead by example, I think that's probably one of my proudest moments in that little example there.
Yeah, no, it was great to see because again, if you're a starter, you have more minutes, right? Whether you're volleyball, basketball, whatever your sport is, you're getting more minutes. So you have a higher systemic stress from just playing your sport, doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. And to balance more systemic stress, although it's positive, is still something to balance. But we did it in, like I said, a very scalpel precise way where it still made a significant impact on their outputs, so they're able to perform at a higher level, longer periods of time against better people. Yeah. So it's like, great, that was the whole point. We found that sweet spot with that particular group. So it's no different than what you said. We build those reserves up in the summer because we don't know what they're going into in university. Like I like to think we have a pretty good network of university coaches, like strength coaches and performance coaches that we assume are going to do a lot of good things. Yeah. That's not always the case, right? There's always that few that, again, we could always sit here and critique someone and say, oh, we do it better. It's like, so I'm never going to judge a coach when I haven't seen what they're doing, or if I'm just getting like an athlete's opinion, it's like, that's just what their interpretation of it. Maybe there's a reason behind it. So until I actually talk to this performance coach, I can't judge them for what I think they're doing right or wrong. It's not my place to do that. However, if they're not doing what I would think is like some bare basic stuff to keep our outputs high and also continue to have good inputs so they can actually regenerate, then you're kind of like, well, thank God their reserves are high enough that their ceiling and their floor didn't drop too low. So, because again, we've heard from our kids too, again, this is just their feedback. Some of them like, yeah, we didn't really actually pick up pretty much any weights. And again, there's ways to train. Don't be wrong. There's ways to train where you don't have to like do your traditional powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift, It's not about that. It's can we derive certain forces and outputs as well as inputs to elicit a certain result. So whatever methods you choose and tools you choose should hopefully hit that mark. And if they're not, you're kind of like, well, what the hell are we doing for the last 8 to 10, 12 weeks? And now we have to try to like reload on track and then help them create a little bit of autonomy where they have to kind of take the reins a little bit and hopefully go back and do some stuff on their own. So, and again, a lot of them will have programs sent home with them, which is great. I love that coaches send programs with them. I'm always, happy to collaborate with coaches that send stuff our way. Because again, I would like to think that it's us versus everyone. It's not like, hey, it's me against this coach. Like I know more than this coach. It's never that. It's like, hey, you and I want the same thing for this athlete. Like this is you're training this volleyball team at your university. That's great. Like I want to help that particular player or players that have worked with me. I want to help them be the best contributor to your team, right? So I don't know what you have designed for your team, right? But I'm here to help the 2 or 3 people I know on your team be the best they can for your team. So it's like whatever you have sent to us, like we'll work within your framework, right? But we also know them on a more individual level that we could probably make them as good as we can. So when we send them back to you, you can let the horses run. You know what I mean? It's never like, oh no, they got to do what I say, not versus you say. It's like, again, I can have my opinions. And trust me, we've seen some horrific stuff from coaches being sent our way. So, it's more of a collaborative approach. Like, hey, yes, I want this particular player who reps your logo to be the best player for that logo team, right? I know this player. I have their numbers. I have all these things. Like, what do you need from them? At the end of the day, coaches don't care how they get there. They say, hey, I want this athlete here. However you get there, get them here. No problem. I'll get them to where you want to get them to, right? Just give me the framework, and I will get them from point A to point B. Don't ask me how I got there, because that's a whole different story, but I'll get them to where you want to get to, right? It's not like a gorilla pounding your chest like, I'm number one, I know everything, It's, no, like, I'm helping this guy be the best contributor to the team that you're in charge of. Help me help them, right? And I'll help you help them as much as I can, right? So. Yeah,
the thing is, too, it's from my previous comments, it's not anything about judging the strength coaches at these schools. A lot of time it's just the schedule, like especially our D1 kids, like a lot of time they'd be like Mike Craig playing in Pittsburgh. Yeah, we're on a road trip last week in Alaska, literally Alaska, and then next week we're over here in some other West Coast state or something. So a lot of time it's like our coach hasn't even had a chance to train us. It's not that they're good or bad or knowledgeable or not. It's like they've given us stuff to do on the road, and yeah, it's better than nothing. But like access, we don't even have a weight room on the road. The school we're visiting didn't allow us to get in there, and then next thing you know, we're home for a day, flying out here, flying out there, like. So we haven't even had a chance to train properly, right? Always find something. Yes, I understand. But a lot of time the access is kind of crazy. So a lot of them just getting these. I find like a lot of these road trips get crammed like right before break. So a lot of time kids are coming to us. They haven't really done like a proper strength session in like 3 weeks, but it's by no fault of their coaches or anything. It's just the nature of the beast and the context that they get put in. So that's why it's such a good time for us to hopefully top up those reserves again and send them back better than they came home.
It's pretty much the sum right there. It's a reload, right? Like. We always talk about it, the chaos of the season. I think people kind of have this interpretation or perception of what the chaos is. Like, yeah, I get it's chaos. Like, yeah, but you don't really know. When we're talking chaos, it's not just like, oh, it's going to be hard. It's going to be games on Thursdays, games on this, travel. It's like, yes, but it's doing the things you still have to do within all those things, right? Like you said, like we're on the road. All we have is body weight and bands. All right, we're gonna take the opportunities to train when we can, where we can, right. And we'll dose it accordingly based on the parameters we have at our disposal. And that's what you do. You find a way to get some sort of output to help them get better, like whatever you have access to. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be ideal. Like you can't just, unless you're some schools, I see them pack up like trailers with shit and carry trailers with like rubber mats and barbells and squat stand, which is incredible.
Yeah, they make sea crate. It's hard enough. It's hard enough. Obviously, humbly, I'll say we do a great job of it, but it's hard enough with the river lions in the summer. Those guys are not in school. So now, not only are these other guys trying to balance training and a playing schedule, but like they're in school. Most of them are in some pretty hard academic programs. Like it's a lot to juggle, right?
It's a ton. It's a ton to juggle.
That's a life they chose. It's a privileged problem, but it can't be understated, overstated, I guess.
Yeah, it's really helping them understand like what that chaos means, and then just helping them prepare for it. So going back to the reload, it's everything you said. It's topping up reserves. It's kind of introducing better opportunities to have input, right? Sleep, regeneration, fluid movement, all those things. We're going to bring something into the body, and then also hammer some hard outputs again, right? So we can kind of get on track or keep them on track for what we hope to be a very dominating 2026 season from all of our athletes. And like I said, any coaches that are sending their kids home to Niagara, we're here to work with you, man. We're here to help them get better, right? It doesn't matter what team you're repping. Our kids represent a lot of schools, D1, OUA, Can West, wherever they are. We want our kids to do well, and whatever logo they rep that year or for that, degree, we're here to help get them better for that. So, we're excited to work with a lot of our kids, and I love just catching up with them. Like I love hearing their stories. I love, seeing them again. Like it's really just, it's like the calling symbol, right? Like the car, and all of a sudden they all just come home type thing for a short time span, and we get to catch up over the holidays and just tell some stories, see how they're doing, and it's just fun to have a lot of little mini rivalries in the same room again, like all these different athletes from different schools that probably compete against each other, and then they're all like training together. It's really like a fun, like an all-star game almost, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, and it's like you kind of mentioned, it's one excellent compliment to get from the kids. Like, oh, you guys really prepared me when I got to school. I was ready to lift and ready to go, and a lot of other guys, or maybe your girls, were behind me developmentally. But it's always nice when we actually get some of that feedback from other strength coaches, because it's such an industry full of ego, which I understand. So like when some of these coaches can give us the feedback of like, man, you guys made my life so easy because so-and-so came in, like, yeah, the metrics are great, but like knowing how to move, knowing how to carry themselves in a weight room, knowing how to lift those up around them with their positivity. And like we always say in here, like especially in our semi-private or team setting, like it's really effective as a coach to develop assistant coaches, right? Like even intern Connor was saying last night in our debrief, he was like, man, like it was really cool to hear some of the young kids, 16-year-old girls, coaching each other, using some of the same cues I was using, and me looking around thinking like, yeah, actually that was a right cue. That's pretty good. Like, so that's very empowering. And it's been cool to have some of the university coaches reach out to us and be like, man, this guy or this girl is an immediate factor in our weight room, not only because maybe the weight they have on the bar and what they're able to do, but also the influence that permeates throughout the whole team.
Welcome to Iron Performance Center, Niagara's home for real personal and performance training. We're a community obsessed with building durable, explosive, game-ready humans. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just training that works. From athletes chasing scholarships, to pros chasing championships, to regular people who just want to feel strong, move well, and stay built for real life. If you're willing to work, you're our people. Our system is simple: smart programming, elite coaching, and a culture that pushes you to levels you didn't know you had. With modern technology and principles-based programming, we track your progress, teach you movement skills, and give you every tool you need to perform when it matters most in whatever arena you call home. Iron Performance Center, because performance matters.
Yeah, it really is just like that other, outside the numbers type thing. It's just the character and the integrity, and I would say their appreciation for the process of supplementary work, right? Like you're able to be a good teammate. You're able to conduct yourself with professionalism and integrity in the weight room, right? You're making your coach's job easier to coach you. You're helping your teammates get better, right? You're bringing some energy. You're putting your stuff away. You know how to read a program card. You know how to move and execute certain things. So the coaches have to spend less time going through these basics so they could actually use their own scalpel precision to get you better. So I don't think a lot of these athletes realize just the fact that you have a little more knowledge, a higher training age, a little more experience, getting under the bar or getting in the weight room itself is a huge plus, just because it saves time from them having to reteach you these things. It's almost like going to university and like second year anatomy. They have to cover first year stuff for the first week or two, and you're kind of like, man, you kind of like, oh yeah, didn't do anything. I just kind of reread all that stuff. Like that's all well and good, but like imagine if you had those extra 2 weeks to like develop new material or work on enhancing or diving deeper into the material. Right? Because everyone has to kind of see where the level's at. Imagine if you had a whole weight room full of people that like, okay, we're gonna go over this, like, and they all do it perfectly on set one. You're like, oh, great, I could actually just go right into this now, So I think more athletes realize like it doesn't mean like you always have to be the most strongest, most powerful. Just your ability to conduct yourself in a weight room with a coach and your teammates, you make their job a lot easier. You save them a lot of time, which only means more time that we can be spent on actually, purposeful development. So I'm very proud of our kids that, put that in their head and they're actually, doing the thing and they're getting better at those things. And it does start young, right? We see a lot of young athletes that have a lot of potential and they get 14, 15 years of age. And you're like, wow, this is great. Like imagine when you become 18 or 19 or whatever you can do, you know what I mean? And I think a lot has to be said for physicality. You know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, like skill is going to dictate playing time. It's going to dictate all those things. But I said this to our teams before too. And again, we have a lot of skilled athletes, of course, but it's like the one thing you can't control your genetics. You can't pick your height. You can't pick your playing time. You can't pick the reps you get in practice. You don't like that's all kind of dictated by either your parents or by your coaches, right? They're kind of laying out like, hey, you're gonna go in this drill, this formation. Okay, you're on the bench. Okay, you're gonna play this many minutes. You're doing that. They dictate all those things for you. What you can control is the quality of the execution of the reps you get. And I would say you can control your physicality. How physical do you want to be? Because nothing bad is going to come from being a more physically dominant specimen, because now you have this capacity, this capability to then just apply it to a skill, right? So like you take a lot of our volleyball players, like, hey, if you really you control how physical you want to be. If you really increase your braking ability, your speed transition, you're going to beat people to the net, right? Like you can't pick how tall you're going to be. I can't stretch you any higher. Like if you're 5'10" or you're 6 foot, like that's it. Like, that's how tall you're going to be, right? But maybe you can make up the inches you're not getting in genetics by simply becoming more physical, so you can get there and beat people at it. You know what I mean? There's like guys and girls like 5'8", 5'9" that can literally put like elbows and shoulders over the net. You're like, that's literally just them being physical. Obviously, there's some genetics to their actual makeup of their tendons and everything else like that, but they have their own genetic ceilings. So it's like, let's get them closer to whatever their relative ceiling is. Like they control that. They have so much control over that. So it always like boggles my mind when they don't capitalize on the one thing that they can really control. They control so much. They can control how physical they want to be. That's the output, right? How strong, how powerful, how fast, how much force you put in the ground. That's all output. You control how much output you can produce relative to your genetic potential. And you also control your input. When you go to bed, how much you eat, what you eat, right? How do you manage your stress? Those are all things within your control. A lot of those things you can control. Obviously, things will always happen to you, but how you respond is within your control, right? And those are like low-hanging fruits that literally just a little bit of work, a little bit of effort, it will go a long way. It sometimes baffles my mind. I don't think they realize how much control over something that can make such an impending difference on their skill expression, just from a lack of just not doing it.
And back to optimizing the Christmas break, Christmas reload. A lot of those things are automatically made better just by being home. Like you're a university student on a budget, cooking your own meals. Maybe it's not, gourmet by any means, but you come home, you got mom and dad's home cooking. It's probably better. You don't have to wake up early to go to class or go to a job or something like that. Like this is where we can really actually put some hay in the barn, recover from the work you've done, and really set yourself up for success for what's to come, right?
Yeah. Like if I had to lay out, let's say it's one of our returning athletes. Like, here's what I would do if I'm home for, I don't know, it's like, let's say 2 to 3 weeks, whatever that number is for you. If I'm home for 2 weeks, because again, a lot of them report back to camp, at least for myself, I remember it doesn't really matter when exams would end. I think we would have practices until like the last week, whatever, like the 19th or 20th of December, whatever like that last Friday or Saturday was before the break. So really, you're only home maybe for like a week. And then you have to kind of get back on Boxing Day because training camp starts on the 27th of December, pretty much until New Year's Eve. And then you're off for another day, and then you're back to training camp on the 2nd or the 3rd or whatever like that until classes get back. So I remember it was like a very short timeline. But it's like that time you did have home. It's like, here's what I would do. And here's what I would recommend my athletes do, whether you're home for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's like once you're home, right? Like for us, our hours like 7 till 10 in the morning. Okay, if you prioritize your sleep, let's say you're, go to bed at 10, maybe 11 latest, right? Like that should not really change too much. Again, you're going to have some holiday nights and all that kind of stuff. Use those sparingly, I would say. Use those sparingly. But for the most part, the reload weeks should be a reload. So treat it as if you're in season with less things to stress about. So go to bed at a reasonable hour, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock latest. You wake up at 7, 7:30 in the morning. You have a light breakfast. You come to train at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Get it done for the day. Now you have a whole afternoon, whole evening. You can kind of just whatever you want to do. You can spend time with family because at the end of the day, no one's like waking up early to hang out with you anyway. Get your stuff done in the morning of the whole day, right? If you want to do something else, come in the afternoon, earlier in the afternoon, so you have the rest of the evening to relax. Literally, wake up, light breakfast, train, supplement with another breakfast, right? Heavier, denser breakfast. Maybe take an afternoon nap, whatever you want to do, play video games, read a book or something, and I don't know, hang with your friends, and then just keep that schedule, going to bed early as much as you can, and then you want to hang up Christmas Eve, go ahead. Hang out Christmas Eve at night. Take the day on Christmas Day. Stay up late, have fun with your friends and your family, right? And then back to work on Boxing Day. It really is like still a normal schedule. You just get more time to sleep, less things to worry about, and you still get to have fun.
That's a good point, too, because as much as we're saying, sleep more and all this stuff, you should also probably avoid getting into the habit of sleeping until 10 or 11 every day because then you're going to get your ass handed to you when you get back to school. So, again, like we said last week, I think it was last week, every hour of sleep before 12 is worth 2 hours after type thing. So don't be, because then you hear the kids coming home and be like, I got 8 hours of sleep. I went to bed at 3, but I woke up at 11, but I still got 8 hours. That's not the same thing. It's going to make your life harder when you get back to school too. So keep that regular bedtime for 90% of your time home. Keep training, and then that will set you up. When you get back to school, you'll be just ready to hit the ground running.
It's really the Christmas reload is literally just do everything you normally would do with less things to worry about. If you go to bed at 10 o'clock when you're in October, when you're in school, go to bed at 10 o'clock when you're home. If you wake up at 7, during the season, wake up at 7 on the break too. Like, keep your routines the same. You just have less things to stress about, right? So that by default allows you more time to regenerate. Your body's not systemically stressing about something you don't have, right? So it's like that's the break part. It really shouldn't mess with your routine too much, right? You might get the extra hour to sleep in more. If you need a little more sleep, okay, great. Catch up on that extra hour, but don't make it a habit like...
Don't make it 2, 3, 4 hours.
Yeah, don't make it like 3 or 4 hours and say, okay, well, I'm going to go to bed at midnight or 1 a.m. now, and then wake up at 10. It's like, well, that's not the point of the reload. The whole point of the reload is do what you normally do with less things to stress about, which makes you have more energy and more effort for outputs when it matters most. And then that'll also help you assimilate back into your in-season routine when you get back to school, knowing that the second semester is always the hardest because, again, in the fall, everyone's all excited, right? It's nice and warm out, that fall autumnal energy, for those who listened to a couple episodes ago, right? Everyone's excited, that back-to-school feeling. Seasons are kind of preseason right now. They're ramping up. It's not like that. It's cold. It's dark. It's miserable outside, right? You have a new semester to start. You don't have a preseason camp. You have remaining season peaking for your playoff. So it's like you really can't afford to just throw your whole routine out the window and say, okay, now I'm going to get back into it again. So you don't have that runway anymore. You have a much shorter runway to get back into it. So I would just recommend, like, whatever your normal day-to-day schedule or routine was in season at school, try your best to maintain that, except maybe if you were going to bed really late during the season, maybe take this time now to set a decent bedtime. If you were sleeping in too late, maybe make it a priority to wake up a couple hours earlier, right? So still get that 8, 9, 10 hour window, but just maybe go to bed at 10 or 11 and wake up at like 7 or 8, right? So keep those habits, and then you have less stress to manage. You'll recover better anyway. I'm not saying don't have fun. Like, take the time to spend with friends and family. That's the whole point of the holidays, right? Everyone gets excited about that stuff. Go do that, right? But it's in addition to, not in subtraction of, what I'm already doing to be successful. At the end of the day, you chose this life to be a high-performance athlete at the post-secondary level. Treat it as a job as such, right? You do have time to have fun, especially over the holidays. You have time to have fun, in addition to, not in substitution of, my sleep, my training, my positive habits that led me to be successful, right? We talk about sacrifice. The 2 weeks doesn't mean you don't sacrifice anything. It means you have more time to do the things that you want to do anyway, but not in substitution of the things that you should be doing, right?
So as we wrap up, I think we should just maybe provide some details or some context to, so kids who don't train here, say somebody in BC's listening to this, like, what should some of the workouts actually look like over the break? So let's say I'll start with football, and then maybe you can take over some of the in-season sports, so they get both. So first things first, a lot of what I'm seeing right now is, I see some of the colleges doing like strength testing, and I feel bad because I talk to a lot of these coaches, and a lot of them are like, I don't even believe in this. We shouldn't be doing this right now. This makes no sense. Coming off the season, beat up, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of the head coaches want to see it. Where are we at?
Yeah, they all want numbers. So
a lot of them are doing the numbers. And on the other hand, again, I feel bad for the strength coaches because a lot of them have to justify their worth by, here's your numbers now. We're going to test again in April, probably again in July, and we're going to see the progress. And at that point, I can say, hey, at least I've done my job and we got stronger. So if you're in that situation, it's unfortunate. You got to do what you got to do. But if you're in control of your training, you should not be doing any of these crazy max testing right now. Force plate jumps, sure. IMTP, absolutely. Some of these low skill, low risk things. But if you're in control of your training, you should not be doing any of these crazy tests right now. It doesn't make any sense. You're deconditioned anyway. The risk to reward just doesn't make sense. So what I'm seeing a lot of is happening is kids are using methods right now. I'm seeing this all over Instagram. Kids are using methods right now that don't really make sense for the time of year we're in. So if you just finish your season, we're trying to restore function. We're trying to restore mobility. You're not peaking for a game that's happening next week, right? So I see kids doing a lot of these crazy intensive plyos, band-assisted plyos, multiple hurdle hops, big crazy heavy partial range lifts, right? Guys, right now, your training session should have a couple main principles. First things first, we should be focusing on full range of motion on pretty much every exercise, okay? Something like a trap bar. I love the trap bar. Probably makes no sense right now in December, okay? Split squats, love the single leg RDLs. A lot of this unilateral stuff should be your main focus. And I'm not saying don't do any of these, back squat, front squat, whatever. But we might use what's called reverse ordering, where we still have some power stuff in the workout, but then my main movement actually becomes that split squat or that single arm lat pull down or something, right? Like trying to build balance in the body, front to back, side to side, restore function, heal up from a physical season. That should be our main focus right now. Even with our explosive work, it should be a lot of a couple of principles you can follow. Staying grounded. Okay, so maybe instead of my broad jumps, maybe I'm doing a lot more kettlebell swings, for example. Getting the horizontal power, but I'm not getting that impact. Okay, or box jumps where I have that cushion landing as opposed to these multiple hurdle hops. If you're an Olympic lift guy and your body's feeling all right, this is the time to probably do complexes and kind of technique work and stuff like that. You don't need to be pushing a 1 rep max right now. It makes no sense, right? Guys are jumping through hurdles, doing all these agility drills again. Like, is there a season next week that I don't know about? Right? Focus on restoring the function, like I said, building balance, and it's going to set you up a long runway of progression so that when August comes, or if you're playing summer ball, when May comes, you actually will be in a much better spot. So if you're in a sport like football where the season's over, that's kind of like some of the main basic but very important things I would say. Emphasize tempo, emphasize range of motion, emphasize quality, right? Extensive over intensive tempos, plyos. And again, even if you're into the sprints, probably heavier resisted sprints so that you can't touch your high thresholds, probably on a short to long model. So you don't need to be running 40s right now. Okay, 10 yards is probably plenty no matter what position you play. And then we can look to build over the season. But what would you say for some of these guys who are kind of going back to play or just about to start playing?
Yeah, we have a shorter, so I'll talk about my jump sport athletes. We have a shorter runway as we head into the last 8 to 10 weeks of season. And again, so going back to what I said about I don't want them to change up too much the routine. Again, I don't know what they've been doing at school, but I'm going to treat them as I would my normal jump sport athletes right now, which if they're coming back over the break, right, assuming they're training at least 3 to 4 days a week, each of those 3 or 4 days will be total body days with reverse ordering, because I'm a big fan of the reverse ordering in season. Like, I know we have a break, but it's more just practicing the habits. I do like the reverse ordering where it's kind of like, let us have a quote unquote like longer runway for warming up to prepare them for the output work. So like that longer runway in the A series and everything else like that is going to literally just be those smaller muscle groups, those smaller qualities, getting them prepared for like a higher output series, right? So they'll have a choice based on kind of the day they're picking, but it's going to be a lot of there'll be like full range of motion on certain days, right? So full range challenge with tempos, right? That way the load is controlled, but they get that feeling and that sensation of full range challenge where they have to control, much like they did in the summer. Then there's gonna be like output driven days, right? Whether it be like a fast force day or a high force day, we're gonna have those kind of peppered in, right? And when I say fast force, it's literally gonna be based on contact time, or it's gonna be based on bar velocity. And those will typically be positional specific movements, right? So like half squats or box squats or something of that nature. And then our high output days, again, could be positional or they could be overcoming isometrics, right? Whether from a certain positional stance. It doesn't always have to be loaded, right? They could be functional overcoming isometrics. But those will be built in as well. And across those 3 to 4 days, they can kind of pick the day, and assuming they give the days break in between, because there's going to be a lot of like input stuff built into those days, and they're going to have the freedom of choice, like, okay, I'm going to do this day today, and then I'll plan this day tomorrow, take that day off, and go back and hit that day. Fantastic. Like they're going to have a lot of options just based on when they decide to come in. And a lot of that's just going to be good communication too, right? If they're going to plan on coming in 4 or 5 days a week, okay, I'll do an upper lower split. Again, there's going to be output days, and there's going to be more like input or like tissue work type days, right? So we're talking about outputs is more like neurally driven with some tissue stress. And then, of course, we're going to have those tissue remodeling days where it's going to be a little bit more input. There's still going to be output. It's going to be challenging, but that's kind of like the layout, right? So I want this to use an opportunity to like rebuild, putting things back in the body, and then have them express things out of the body at a higher level. So that's kind of like the skeleton layout. Again, 45-minute sessions tops. And a good chunk of that, like maybe 20 minutes, that will actually be hard output work. But the rest will be like preparing for the 20-minute output work. And the rest will just be, again, regenerative qualities. So it sounds simple. Maybe it doesn't sound simple. But in the grand scheme of things, for a broad picture view, it's kind of simple. And they're going to have flexibility of choice of those things because that's what they need. Right? Because I don't know where they're coming from after 8 to 10 weeks or 12 weeks in season, right? How I left them in August or July, right, is not whether they're going to come back to me in December. Hopefully they're better, so then we have, we can be a little more precise. If not, then we have to kind of say, okay, we actually have to focus more on these days right now, and then we'll kind of finish up with those days later. But if you're okay, then we'll hit these days here. So it's going to come down to communication. We're going to test their jumps. We're going to test their power output. I want to see their braking ability. I want to see their time to eccentric. I want to like look at their wavelengths a lot more and see what kind of model curve they are and see if that changed from the summer. And that'll help dictate a lot more of like, okay, like here's the plan, but actually based on what I'm seeing, I actually might have to change this up, put this here, put that there, and see if that makes things better. And of course, accommodating any issues or injuries they've accumulated over the season. I already had a couple texts and emails a lot of banged up knees, some issues, stuff like that. And like, okay, so we have to kind of work around those things a little bit too. So that's kind of like the Cole's Notes version. And there'll be a lot of choice, right? Like they're going to get a lot of choice of what movements. As long as you have a certain pattern, they can kind of pick the tool they want to use. I don't care if we're squatting as an example. I don't care if it's a back squat, front squat, searcher. You can pick the tool. As long as we're getting the output in the pattern, I'm happy. Like I'm not going to, they're old enough and they have a higher training age. My kids do. They have that. They've earned that freedom. So that's what I would focus on.
That's the biggest thing I want the listener or the viewer to understand. Like, way too much missing context for us to provide anybody listening to this a program, but just understand the principles. Like I said, for me, coming off season is coming up now. Like, unilateral is the focus. Longer duration tempos, more maybe yielding isometrics. You hear Matrixx talking about doing the overcoming isometrics for force output. Makes perfect sense. For guys that are just coming off a season, that makes no sense right now. I'm seeing it happen left, right, and center. Makes no sense to have these output things kind of being the focus right now. Let's focus on healing up and fixing our mechanics, making sure we have good patterns. So later in the season, we can get to like some of the stuff he's talking about, because then it will make sense even for us, right? Different sport, doesn't matter. Same outcome, same goals. Versus a lot of stuff you're emphasizing right now. And even for these guys too, like coming off a season, right now is the time of year where it's actually not the worst idea to maybe do a little bit of aerobic work, okay? I know it's football. Oh my God, it's very alactic, but guess what? Or so anaerobic alactic, I should say. But just so that we actually have good recoverability, this is actually not the worst time for us to do some little bit longer. I don't need Owen Taylor becoming a marathoner by any means, but a little more sled work, a little more on the bike, you know what I mean? Not the worst idea this time of year. Again, versus some of your guys are not going to be doing too many of those means because it doesn't make sense right now. So just understanding where you are in the year, what you need, what you don't need is crucial, and obviously hiring a competent coach who can guide you through that is paramount.
Yeah, it just like if you're off season, like you have a longer runway. Like if you're right before like your season just ended and you're getting ready for the next season, you have a longer runway to build these qualities. For my in-season athletes, they have a very short runway. So it's like, what can we get done in 2-3 weeks, right? We can feel better, we can repattern, and hopefully by that repatterning, we can kind of put outputs through that pattern and make it feel better. I'm not saying we'd make substantial gains in 2 to 3 weeks. We might see some improvement. If nothing else, if my athletes feel better with the same outputs, or they're able to get in positions a little more sturdy, that repatterning alone is going to make a huge difference, right? Like their body feels a bit better going to those positions than when they came in. That's a good win. It's like, okay, great, let's hold on to that feeling, right? Like that's that input-output type thing. Let's make ourselves feel better in those positions, knowing that when you go back to school, you have to load them and end up there anyway, right? So that's kind of the goal. It's a short runway. We have 2-3 weeks or more, like a little bit less somewhere around there, to like make an impact. That's going to be a big focus, right? Let's rebuild our inputs, regenerate, and then have quality outputs where it feels good, and hopefully it's a little bit faster, and then we can send them back, and then hopefully they're in a better place, long story short. So, damn, that was pretty good. That was a short but sweet episode, talking everything Christmas reload. So,
Put a Christmas bow on it.
Put a Christmas bow on it. Don't worry, we're going to do our whole, in the coming episodes, as we wrap up 2025, we'll do a whole episode on reflection of 2025. There's a lot of things to celebrate, a lot of cool things, and a lot of things we're excited about for the new year. So again, if you're one of our returning university athletes and you're listening to this, check your emails. You can also check our Instagram. Christmas reload happens the minute you get back from exams. So let's get you going, and then of course get ready to lock in for a heavy 2026. Guys, make sure you subscribe. Right? Be a subscriber. Stay in the know. We're on Apple. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. We always got good tangents, a lot of good nuggets coming out of here. So be a subscriber and join on the fun. All right? This is the Performance Matters Podcast, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all next time.
Peace.